What's up, Bulls Nation? It's the Bloody Horns podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here to give you the daily content. So, it's all over Twitter. This is really one of the only things Bulls fans are talking about right now. It's Andre Drummond versus Nikola Vucevic. You know, the last two games, we've seen Drummond get the start. We've seen Vuce come off the bench, and Drummond is flat out outperforming him. There's no other way to put it. He's been more productive. The offense has looked a lot better with Drummond in the lineup versus Vucevic. There was a point last night, I want to say I checked with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter because I was curious. Drummond's plus minus was a plus 16. Vuce's was a negative 16. So plus minus, it's a flawed stat. You know, I feel like I always have to say that when I bring up plus minus because you get some dork in the comments telling you how it's a flawed stat. We all know it's a flawed stat, guys. But it's kind of telling when those two players play in the same position have such an opposite plus minus. I'd have to go back and check and see what they finished with. I'd assume they'd have finished a little closer just because Vuce played all of overtime. But at one point in the game last night, you know, it was plus 16 for Drummond, minus 16 for Vuce. So that says a lot. There's a couple things to keep in mind, too, when it comes to the Drummond versus Vucevic topic. Key number one. We're talking about the Charlotte fucking Hornets, guys. They have 8 wins on the year. Anything you do against the Hornets should be taken with a grain of salt. And yes, they both played good yesterday. I'm not taking anything away from either of them, but it still was a little disconcerting to me that there were stretches during that game last night where JT Thor was getting offensive rebounds, looking like he was bullying them. Some undrafted motherfucker I've never heard of before named Nathan Mensu was getting in there looking like a bully, both against Vuce and against Drummond. You know, I'll give Drummond a little bit of credit. It was more against Vuce than it was against Drummond, but still, I mean, Nick Richards, he's a big I've always liked just because he's athletic. He runs the rim. He was getting his own against them too. So, you know, it's the Charlotte Hornets. They're dog shit. They're missing Mark Williams, who's by far their best big man. So the numbers that Drummond and Vuce are putting up against the Hornets should be taken with a grain of salt. Now, Wednesday, tomorrow night, we play the Houston Rockets. Going up against Alperen Şengün, that's going to be a big test for both of them. Şengün, he's got to be a top 5 center in the NBA. He's knocking on that door of being elite right now. He's kind of like Jokic light right now, like a very light version of Jokic, but you can see a lot to his game. So that's going to be a big test for both of those guys. Now, when you're looking at who's better, who's worse, you know, the most misleading stat out there is judging them based on rebounds. Number one, we all know Drummond is a better rebounder than Nikola Vucevic. Asking Nikola Vucevic to be at the same standard of rebounds as Andre Drummond would be like asking Andre Drummond to be at the same three-point shooting standards of Nikola Vucevic. It's just not, it's not really Vuce's strength the way it is Drummond's strength. So that's key number one. And with Drummond's rebounds too, man, they're super misleading, guys. I mean, somebody pointed out yesterday that he was 6 of 9 because I was like, half of his rebounds got to be from catching his own misses. I don't know how he was only 6 of 9 last night. It seemed like a majority of his rebounds came off his own misses. I don't necessarily know what counts as a rebound because sometimes it seems like he just taps the ball, it goes off the glass, then he grabs it and they count it as 2 rebounds. Drummond's rebounds are super inflated, both from the amount of times he just taps it and gets credited with a rebound and the amount of times he point blank misses his own shot and rebounds it. That play last night where Kobe gave him the perfect dump off pass and he bricked it into the rim from 2 inches away and then rebounded it and dunked it was the epitome of Andre Drummond. So if you're going to compare their rebounding, I don't know. Drummond kind of inflates his numbers a little bit, and it's just weird to compare Vuce to Drummond as a rebounder, especially when a lot of you guys are out there saying Drummond is the greatest rebounder of all time. So why would we compare Vuce to him anyways? That just doesn't make sense in that key. Now, another thing you got to keep in mind too is Vuce is still working his way back here. You know, these are his first 2 games back. It's a little rusty, and he's playing in a new role. He's never really come off the bench before. I don't think he's come off the bench since year 2 or 3 of his career. So this is a brand new role for him. It's a lot of adjustments for him. And he's working his way back in from being healthy. You know, he had that groin injury. I don't know if you guys have ever had a groin injury before. I pulled my groin once, and it takes a long time to recover from that. There's a level of uncomfortability that just sticks with you for a good 6-7 weeks. So, you know, he's gonna look a little slower than usual. He's gonna look a little more flat-footed than usual for a little bit here. So keep that in mind. He's still working his conditioning back. I liked a lot of what I saw from him yesterday on the offensive end. You know, on the defensive end, he was driving me a little crazy. You know that one play where Zach got beat, or Zach lost his man. DeRozan got confused, because Zach lost his man, and then that dude cut back door, got the easy layup, or he didn't even get the easy layup. He missed the layup, and then there were a bunch of rebounds. None of the Bulls were crashing. It was just Vuce in there, and Vuce did the hands up thing. I get what Vuce is saying, help him out, but at the same time, Vuce, it was like 3 6'5" Hornets in there. You're 7 fucking feet tall, and you kept doing that stupid ball tapping shit, trying to get it. Grab the fucking ball, my man. Grab the ball. Like, I get that you want help, but at the same time, use your size, just get that rebound. So Vuce on the defensive end leaves a lot to be desired. It's always going to be that way. I liked a lot of what I saw from him on the offensive end. One of my 5 keys yesterday was that he needs to quit jacking up threes, and he limited himself to 3 threes last night. If he stays in that 2 to 3 range and he gets most of his from the mid-range and from the low post instead of hovering on the three-point line so much, Bulls are going to be much better off. So it's an interesting question. Should we start Andre Drummond or should we start Nikola Vucevic? I still lean Vucevic simply because of the non-court stuff, the off-the-court stuff. I don't know if you want to call that the intangibles or just off-the-court things. I lean that way because, one, Vuce just got paid. So what does it look like when you just gave a dude a 3-year, $60 million extension and then you're going to bring him off the bench? That ain't a good look for a franchise. Now, the reality is, in a perfect world, it shouldn't matter how much you make. Your play should dictate how much you play, but, you know, that's the politics of basketball, baby. He's going to play based on his contract, and I think you saw that last night in that overtime period because Vuce played every minute of overtime. Even though Drummond was on a hot streak, Billy took Drummond out with, 3 minutes left last night, even though Drummond was thoroughly outplaying Vuce at that point. And it paid off for him in overtime because Vuce made a couple key plays that sealed the win for the Bulls, but still, it says a lot that when the game was on the line, Vuce was the one in there. So the contract definitely matters. The personalities matter too. You know, Drummond's been coming off the bench pretty much since he left the Cavs. You know, he went to the Lakers, and that was a weird stretch. He didn't do what they expected him to do out there. That was a really flawed basketball team too. And then he went to Philly. He was the backup center. He went to Brooklyn. He might have started a little bit, but mostly he was coming off the bench. And with Chicago, he's been a backup center. So Drummond kind of accepted his place in the NBA, that he's going to be a backup center and he's going to get limited minutes and have to make an impact when he does. Vuce, he's at a different stage. He hasn't accepted that yet. That day is coming for him. Don't get me wrong. That man is aging in dog years, it looks like. That day is coming for him very soon, but he ain't there yet. So personality-wise, you know, you saw how checked out Vuce was those first 10 games of the year when the offense wasn't clicking right. I think you'd see the same thing if we tried to bring him off the bench again. So, you know, I'm almost there with you guys. Those of you that are on that we got to start Andre Drummond bandwagon, watching these 2 games, I'm almost there. But there's still that rational part of me that's saying, you know, Vuce still working his way back. It's a new role for him. And just the personality, the contract, the politics of it all, is probably not going to let that happen. Now, tomorrow night, if Drummond goes out and he bullies Alperen Şengün and Vuce plays the same way he's been playing, I might have to jump on that start Drummond bandwagon with you guys, but I'm not quite there yet. But either way, I think we've seen that it's a good thing we got Andre Drummond pushing Vuce like this. You know, Vuce can't rest on his laurels. Stacey was pointing that out a bunch last night. And we've definitely seen that Drummond deserves more minutes. I've been advocating for a while now, since that first Atlanta start for Drummond, that we need to see a 28-20 split. You know, Vuce will start and play 28 minutes. Drummond's going to play 20. Vuce is going to have fresher legs. He's going to feel that pressure to perform, and Drummond's going to get plenty of minutes to wreak havoc on the game. So it's an interesting topic. I'm still in the Vuce camp. You know, I'm not convinced yet. We'll see if tomorrow changes my mind. But if you guys aren't hitting subscribe, please hit subscribe on this video. Send it to all your Bulls fans out there. If you haven't heard the podcast yet, I dropped it over the weekend. It's talking about bringing on Jonathan Kuminga with those reports that he's done with Steve Kerr. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. If you're not following on Twitter, it's @HornsBloody. Same handle on here. Throw me a follow. Let's talk hoops. Take it easy, guys.